Hello and welcome to this demonstration of Lab 4. This video is part 1 of this lab, so let me tell you what our objectives are for part 1 of Lab 4. By this point in time, you've learned about some of the various ways you can implement authentication for your wireless LANs using your Ruckus Zone Director controller. In this lab demonstration, I'm going to show you how to take an existing wireless LAN that has a static WPA2 passphrase and turn on the Zero IT feature for that wireless LAN. Then we'll verify that Zero IT is working by using this feature to enable wireless LAN connectivity to a couple of Wi-Fi clients. Now, it may have been some time since you watched the VODs where you learned about Zero IT. And now you may be wondering why you'd ever want to enable that feature in the first place. Well, Zero IT helps you when you want all of your wireless LAN users for this particular wireless LAN to use the exact same AES passphrase. So that's your first criteria. Whether you're having 5 users or 50 users connect to this wireless LAN, they're all going to be using the exact same AES passphrase. And criteria number 2. Considering that your wireless LAN AES passphrase should be really long and really complicated to prevent people from easily guessing it, your second criteria is that you want your authorized wireless LAN users to be able to obtain this passphrase dynamically and configure their wireless LAN adapters with it dynamically without them having to actually type in that long, complicated passphrase manually. Now, if this second criteria is met, then we will have prevented users from accidentally mistyping the passphrase and everyone will be happy. So what I've just described is the perfect scenario for using the Ruckus feature of Zero IT. Now keep in mind that by using this feature, your wireless LAN clients will still have to take a couple of steps on their own. It's not like they can just magically connect to the wireless LAN without any user intervention. But the steps they'll need to take, those clients, those employees, which I'll show you in this demo, are very easy. And they don't require typing in any long, complicated passwords which could easily be mistyped. That is our objective, to prevent people from having to type in long, complicated wireless passwords, to be able to download and configure their adapters with those passwords dynamically, so they never even have to type them. Now, as I like to do in all my labs, I like to start out by showing you a topology diagram of what we're going to be working with. So you can see here, it's a very simple topology. We're only going to have a single access point. That's all we need for this lab. A single zone director and a couple of laptops serving as our Wi-Fi clients. And they're all going to be connected via a wired distribution system, which is the switch. And our objective is that Laptop 1 and Laptop 2 are going to use the Zero IT feature to dynamically obtain their AES passphrase, to dynamically configure their wireless NIC cards with that passphrase, and then we'll actually connect via Wi-Fi to the wireless LAN that's using that passphrase on access point number 1. So that's our objective. So let's go ahead and get started. In laptop number 2, as we can see here, when I issue the ipconfig command in DOS, it verifies down here that my local area network connection is 10.0.0.102, and I have a wired connection back to the same subnet that the zone director is on. So in previous labs, we've already seen how to configure wireless LANs. So we're starting here at the point where a few wireless LANs have already been configured in the zone director, and in this particular part of the lab, we're going to take one of those existing wireless LANs and enable everything that's necessary to use the Zero IT feature on this wireless LAN. So let's go ahead and go into the zone director and take a look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up my browser. In my particular case, I'm going to use Firefox, but you can pretty much use anything. And according to the diagram, 10.0.0.101 is my zone director. And I've already pre-configured it with a very simple username and password of admin for both. So first, let's go ahead and verify that we've got some existing wireless LANs in there. We could do that in a couple of ways. Let's start with the Monitor tab. And if I go Monitor Wireless LANs, we can see there's currently 3 wireless LANs already in this controller. The open wireless LAN is just like the name sounds. It's a pure open wireless LAN. No authentication, no encryption. Not really going to use that for anything in this particular lab. The particular wireless LAN that we're going to play around with in this part of the lab is Wireless LAN-Zero IT. Now that's actually the SSID that's broadcasting right now. And I just configured it with that SSID because it reminded me that this is the wireless LAN I want to play around with to turn on the Zero IT feature. Now let's take a look at a little bit more details of that. So to do that, I'm going to go to Configure, Wireless LANs. And the various menus under Configure, not only are they good for actually configuring and changing features, they're also great to look at for verifying stuff and looking at your configuration, seeing how you've configured things. A lot of times when you view the options under the Monitor tab, you've only got limited visibility into the various details of things. So let's go into Configure, and I'm going to look at Wireless LAN 0 IT. So I'm going to click on the Edit link for that. So here it is, Wireless LAN for 0 IT testing. A couple of things I want to point out. I've already configured it so it's going to use WPA2 with AES encryption. And I tried to configure a somewhat complicated passphrase. And you can see here that normally if we expected my clients, my users, my employees to manually type in this passphrase, pretty good chance that they're going to mess it up, that they're going to mistype it somehow. There's a lot of B's, a lot of D's. They could intermix those characters. This is a good example of a passphrase that we probably don't want people to have to type in manually because they'll probably mess it up if they do. So perfect scenario for using 0 IT. Now notice down here under 0 IT activation, currently 0 IT is not turned on. So our first step in using this feature is to do just that, turn it on. Now for this particular part of the lab, we're not going to be doing dynamic PSK. That's going to be in part 2 of lab 4. Right now I just want to show you just what happens if you solely enable the 0 IT feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK to update that. Alright, we're not done yet. So when using 0 IT, remember what you learned from the VODs. In order for an actual client, an employee or a user to be able to use this feature, what do they have to do? Well, number one, they have to be able to somehow connect to the zone director. Normally we recommend that people connect their client devices via a wired network, and from that wired network be able to reach the zone director. Then they need to bring up the zone director's web interface, but they go to a special page in that web interface. As a matter of fact, it says it right down here. Look at this under 0 IT activation. Activation URL. So this is what I would have to actually give to all of my Wi-Fi clients. I'd have to send them an email or verbally tell them, okay guys, if you want to connect to this wireless LAN, you're going to need to go to this URL, https://10.0.101/activate. Now keep in mind, if they didn't have the /activate and they went to 10.0.0.101, what would happen? Well, they'd be attempting to get into the administrator side of the GUI, and hopefully they would not be able to do that because they would not have the administrator username and password. But by having the /activate here after the URL name, that will direct them to the correct web page where they can actually authenticate. So that's the next step. They're going to have to provide some credentials, a username and a password. And once they provide that username and password, then they will be presented with an executable file called prov.exe. It stands for provision.exe. And when they download that provision.exe or that prov.exe file to their local machine, that executable is the thing that has the passphrase inside of it. And when they open up that executable, that's what dynamically configures their wireless LAN adapter with that passphrase. So, what's the next step for us? As the wireless LAN administrator, what do I need to do? Well, I've already turned on 0 IT, but now my next step is I need to configure something so that when the user is presented with a username and password prompt, whatever they type in is recognized by the zone director. So to make things simple, I'm going to use the zone director's internal local database, and I'm going to configure a role and some usernames so that the zone director can authenticate for itself these various Wi-Fi clients that are trying to download the prov.exe file. So the way we always start is we have to configure a role first. That's the very first thing. Because when you go to configure a user, it's going to ask you, what role is this user in? And if the role has not been configured yet, you won't be able to even get past that step. So we have the default role here. I could leave it like that, certainly, but I'm just going to go ahead and create a new role, and I'm just going to give this a descriptive name of 0 IT users. And I'll just say under the description, role for